Hello, welcome to Gurukul's CAT 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady Sharma and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now this is your passage for today, and in case you want to take this up as a test, then all you've got to do is get on to www.thegurukul.org.in. This is the website. And on this, you'd find a login button. When you click on the login button, you can sign up to our free test series called the 100 Days to CAT test series. Okay, now this is completely free of cost, so that all of you get one set of LRDI, one VARC, and a set of quant questions every single day, so that you can stay consistent with your practice and crack CAT 2025 in your first attempt. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the passage. This is your first paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we'll go into the second paragraph. This is your second paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we'll go into the third paragraph. Now, this is your third paragraph. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we'll go into the questions. This is your question number 1. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll go into the question number 2. This is your question number 2. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll move into the third question. This is your third question. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll move into the last question of this passage. Now, this is the last question of this passage. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll move into the passage and question explanations. So, what is he saying in this passage? A conventional view, that means the traditional view of 19th century Britain, holds that iron manufacturers and textile manufacturers from the north of England became the wealthiest and most powerful people in society after about 1832. So, after 1832, apparently the iron manufacturers and textile manufacturers, they were the most wealthiest, that means they had a lot of money, and they were also the most powerful, that means they had a lot of political influence or some kind of a power. According to Marxist historians, so according to these people, so some historians, these industrialists were the target of working class in struggle for power. So when these working class people were struggling for power, the target of those people were to be the industrialists. A new study by Rubinstein, however, suggests that the real wealth lay with the bankers and merchants of London. Rubinstein doesn't deny that a northern industrial elite existed, but that it was consistently outnumbered and outdone by a London-based commercial elite. His claims are provocative and deserve consideration. So what is he saying? He's saying that, okay, I agree that there were iron merchant or iron manufacturers and textile manufacturers who were elite, okay, who were really noble, who were really rich, but the real money, the real chunk of wealth, that stayed with banks, okay, that stayed with commercial people, the merchants and all, okay. They had more money, and they clearly were larger in number and definitely had more money than the textile and iron manufacturers, okay. And the author says that this fellow, whoever the author, Rubinstein is, he has put these claims which are very provocative, that means which bring in a lot of thought. They are motivating to read, and that is why they deserve some kind of a consideration. So let's get into the second paragraph. Rubinstein's claim about the location of wealth comes from his investigation of probate records. So apparently this fellow checked some kind of records known as probate records, and from there he is getting the claim. So these indicate the value of personal property excluding real property left by individuals at death. So when a person dies, when a person is dead, okay, the kind of property that he leaves behind, personal property, that is what is stated in the probate records. But in the probate records, they actually do not put any real property like buildings and land, okay. So, it does seem as if large fortunes were more frequently made in commerce than in industry, and within industry more frequently from alcohol or tobacco than from textiles or metal. That means what? A lot of big wealth, okay, actually this large fortunes means big wealth, came from commerce, that means merchants, okay, than in industry. That means one thing is that merchants, especially in terms of wealth, if we are looking, merchants had greater wealth than industrialists, okay. And amongst industrialists, if we are looking at, okay, we are having alcohol and tobacco industrialists who are way richer than normal metals and textiles industrialists, okay. So however, such records do not unequivocally make Rubinstein's case. So unequivocally meaning without a doubt. So these records they do not remove doubt, and they don't, definitively make Rubinstein's case. Uncertainties abound how the probate rules for valuing assets were actually applied. So there were a lot of uncertainties in how these probate records actually, valued different possessions. Mills and factories being real property were clearly excluded. Machinery may also have been for the same reason. So any real property, if they're taking off, obviously things are getting undervalued, right? Okay, so when the valuation conventions were stock in trade, that means goods for sale, okay, is also uncertain. So we're not able to actually see that, okay, we know that there's some effect on these goods and goods for sale and all based on the valuation conventions, how they are valued at. But we don't know if it's actually lowered in value, higher in value, greater in value. What's happening? We have no idea. Okay, it's possible that their probate values were much lower than their actual market value. Cash or near cash, such as bank balances or stock, were on the other hand invariably considered at full face value. So whenever this kind of cash or stock or some kind of things were there, the bank balances, they were definitely taken at full face value. But all the other things, okay, like the lands, like factories, all these things were not considered as property left behind by the person. So a further complication is that probate valuations probably took no notice of a business goodwill. What is goodwill? Nothing but favor with the public, how much reputation it has and everything, which, since it represents expectations about future profit making, would today be very often a large fraction of market value. So this probate records essentially left out a lot of important things, because of which definitely it cannot be trusted. Obviously, because of the valuation conventions and all, there's some effect on our valuation, but I mean on the person's wealth, but it cannot be completely understood as true. Okay. So what else is he saying? Whether factors like these introduce systematic biases into the probatic valuations of individuals with different types of businesses would be worth investigating. So it's good to investigate if these actually brought in any biases, if this actually brought in any kind of a push towards one side for these people who are having such kind of a great valuation. Now let's go to the next part. The orthodox view, that means again the traditional view, that the wealthiest individuals were the most powerful, is also questioned by Rubinstein's study. Now see, the whole passage is discussing about wealth and power, right, in Britain, again in the olden times. So this is one thing that I want us to remember. Okay, so till now we spoke about wealth, now we are going to speak about power. Okay, so Rubinstein's view is again, Rubinstein's study is again questioning, okay, if having wealth equated to having power, and he is actually providing some kind of an evidence also. What is that evidence? The problem for this orthodox view is that Rubinstein finds many millionaires who are totally unknown to the 19th century historians. So these people were not at all known. Okay, the reason for their obscurity is again not being known very well. Okay, not being well known, could be that they are not powerful. Indeed, Rubinstein dismisses any notion that great wealth had anything to do with the entry into the governing elite, as represented by bishops, higher civil servants, and the chairman of manufacturing companies. The only requirements were university attendance and a father with a middle class income. So Rubinstein has seen that, okay, a lot of people, a lot of very wealthy people were not known by historians. So if historians did not know about them and did not write about them, they probably were not so powerful to be written about. Okay, now adding to that, he's also found that, or he also asserts that, he also tells that you don't need to have a lot of money to get into a high governing position as an elite. Okay, all you need is a university attendance. That means you have to go into some college and you should have a father with a middle class income at least. Okay, Rubinstein in another study has begun to buttress. Buttress means support. Okay, give support to. So Rubinstein in another study has begun to buttress his findings about the location of wealth by analyzing income tax returns, which reveal a geographical distribution of middle class incomes similar to that of wealthy incomes revealed by probate records. So what does he find? He finds that the geographical distribution across Britain, okay, how the middle class income was distributed, that was similar to how the wealthy income was revealed as per the probate records. But until further confirmatory investigation is done, his claims can only be considered partially convincing. So the author is not entirely convinced by his claims. The author wants to investigate further and find out if actually Rubinstein's claims make sense or not. Now that we've understood the passage, let's get into the question explanations. So the first question is, the main idea of the passage is that A, the Marxist interpretation of the relationship between class and power in 19th century Britain is no longer viable. See, how is it right now? We have no idea. Okay, We don't know if it is viable now, it's not viable now, that's not told in the passage. So I can take this off because this is out of scope. A simple equation between wealth and power is unlikely to be supported by new data from 19th century British archives. Now again, what came out in the 19th century British archives was not given to us. Okay, in the British archives, what we found was that, okay, there's a lot of, wealth that's equally distributed, just like how it is in the probate data across the middle class people also. So this cannot be completely true. So this is not the main idea of our passage. A recent historical investigation has challenged but not disproved the traditional view of distribution of wealth. So yes, now the historical investigation that has happened by Rubinstein, it did challenge, right? It tried to say that, okay, what he said is wrong, but it did not disprove. That's why it's not completely convincing yet, right? About what the view of distribution of wealth and the relationship of wealth to power in the 19th century Britain. So this seems like a good answer for us, but let's keep this aside and let's go to the next option. Probate records provide the historian with a revealing but incomplete glimpse of the extent and location of wealth in 19th century Britain. Now this is a very, very partial scope answer. We are not actually looking at the extent and location, right? So this part about location is not really the idea that we wanted to see because it was just the last one line. Okay, so this will not be our correct answer. Possible answer would be C. Now let's go to the second question. The author of the passage implies that probate records as a source of information about wealth in 19th century Britain are. So are the probate records really accurate? That's what he's basically saying. How can we classify the probate records in terms of their information on wealth? Okay, so first thing, self-contradictory and misleading? No, not really. They're not contradicting themselves. Okay, although the valuations and all, they're different. Okay, the conventions have been different, but they're not contradicting themselves. So I can remove this. Ambiguous and outdated. Okay, to certain extent I can think that they are ambiguous but outdated because they were only about the 19th century. Okay, for that time when it was happening, we cannot think about it as outdated. So this part I'm not very sure of. So let's go to C. Controversial but readily available. Again, how readily available they were, we do not know. We just know that Rubinstein found them and he talked about them, right? And second thing, when we are talking about controversial, maybe I can think that it is controversial because of the different conventions that the valuation had and leaving out certain kind of a property from the valuation. So I'm just going to keep this aside, although B and C I am not really sure. So I'm just going to, think about it. If I do not find D convincing, then probably I would not mark this answer when I'm in an exam. But over here, I will tell you what the right answer is. Revealing but difficult to interpret. Yes. So they have revealed certain things. I agree with this. Okay. And difficult to interpret because of the different types of value conventions. What are they taking in? What are they not taking in? Why are they taking it in? How did the values change? We don't know yet. So we agree with both of these. So now the best possible answer is D. Obviously, I'm going to take off B and C from the list and the correct answer for me will be D. So let's go to the third question. The author suggests that the total probate valuations of the personal property of individuals holding goods for sale in 19th century Britain may have been. So see, these people, they had certain goods for sale. So they were manufacturers and all. So how would that valuation be? Affected by the valuation conventions for such goods? Obviously, if they are valuing those goods at higher rate, then it would be higher. If they're valuing it at lower rate, it would be lower. So definitely A seems like a good option. B, less accurate than the valuations for such goods provided by income tax returns. Again, for us the comparison is not really made anywhere. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. C, less on average if goods were tobacco related than if they were alcohol related. What did we read about alcohol and tobacco related? We read that more than iron manufacturing and textile manufacturing, industrialists, these people had more money. That doesn't mean that the goods for sale were valued more, right? Okay, it is one possible inference, but a very far stretched inference, which takes into account a lot of assumptions. So let's not go with this. Okay, D, greater on average than the total probate valuations of those individuals who held bank balances. Again, there was no comparison that was made. Okay, we do not know exactly how they had valued goods for sale. We just know that it would affect them. So definitely we cannot take D to be our correct answer. The best possible answer now becomes A. So let's go to the last question of this passage, guys. According to the passage, Rubinstein has provided evidence that challenges which one of the following claims about 19th century Britain. So what evidence did, or what did the Rubinstein show that is kind of challenging one of the claims in 19th century Britain? So one of the long held views or traditional views that are challenged. Okay, so distribution of great wealth between commerce and industry was not equal. Now again, this was not challenged, this was proven, this was told to us already, right? So I'm going to take this off. Large incomes were typically made in alcohol and tobacco rather than in textiles and metal. Again, this was told to us, so it was not really challenging the past view. These are facts that have been mentioned. A London-based commercial elite can be identified. What? London-based commercial elite can be identified. This is completely an irrelevant option. Okay, there's nothing as such that was even told or challenged. So last one, there was a necessary relationship between great wealth and power. Now this was a long-held view, right? People actually thought that yes, if you had more money, you would have more power. But this is what Rubinstein's evidence challenged by saying that there were a lot of historians who did not know a lot of millionaires. So maybe that's not true. So that challenge comes directly from D. So my best possible answer becomes D, and that will be our correct answer. Now, if you stay till here, guys, please drop a like, because that motivates us to keep getting new videos like this for you every single day. If there's any friend of yours who's confused about CAT prep and does not know what to do in this last 100 days, then please share this video with them. They'll thank you later, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.